Hi, it's Rob. Thanks for clicking through to my intro video on the James Freeman channel. So here's a little bit about who I am and why I'm here contributing. A few weeks back, James approached me and told me about a problem that he has, and it's a great problem to have as a content creator. He's got so many stories that are submitted to him by viewers like you from the auditing community that he doesn't have time to follow up on all of them. There's only so much time in the day and he needed some help. A big reason he asked me to help was because we share very similar viewpoints when it comes to people in perceived positions of power. We're naturally skeptical of them. Skeptical of people who would consider themselves higher, more important than others, and certainly aware of the consequences of having such an overreaching, self-empowered government. Well, I come by my skepticism of this type of creature from an early age. I grew up a kid in the 90s in the Midwest. I skated. We didn't have skate parks built by the taxpayers, so we'd have to find places like empty parking lots to skate in. We had to find places in the community where the owner didn't care if we skated there after the businesses closed up, but the cops would still show up and harass us. We had to either get really fast and run away from them, or really good at knowing our statutes so that we could stand our ground against them. If we didn't, we'd have our rights violated. But once I learned how powerful being informed can be against attempted tyranny, I was hooked. I was fortunate enough to be able to take business law classes for 3 semesters in high school. I learned a ton, but the biggest takeaway from it was learning my constitutionally protected rights. And as I learned my rights, I was amazed at how often these officers had been violating them. Like so many other viewers of this channel, I had my own experiences of police officers who lied to me to coerce me into giving up my rights. One of those experiences happened when I was 18 years old. I was visiting a friend who lived a few hundred miles south of me in a small town in a rural community in the middle of nowhere. His parents owned a hotel, and at around 9:30 at night, I walked from his hotel to his house 2 blocks away. I had a county sheriff pull up alongside me and demand my identification. I didn't have it on me, but that's irrelevant. I asked him what crime I had committed that required me to identify myself. His response was to jump out of his car, grab me by my bag, and toss me into the driver's side door of his cruiser. He then threw me inside, and I'll never forget the words he told me when I explained my rights to him. He said, and I quote, "We do things differently here in Hancock County." This experience forever changed my opinion of law enforcement, especially how fast someone with a badge and gun decide to make their own rules for how the world works. So I met James about a year ago when my family and I moved to New Mexico. At the time we met, I was disabled. I had been battling a debilitating condition and in nearly constant extreme pain for 9 years. I was incapable of doing much of anything for myself, and I relied on my wife and kids every day of my life. But miraculously, a little while after moving to New Mexico, I was finally able to find a doctor who discovered what was wrong in my body, and he had me in surgery this past January that has changed my life completely. I got a lot of my ability back. One of the things I did while I was sick to help get my mind off the pain was watch YouTube videos. I gravitated towards police auditing, and a funny story, a couple weeks after moving here, my wife came back from a trip to the park and she said, "I met this guy who does videos on YouTube like the ones you like to watch about police." And I said, "Oh yeah, what's his name?" After she told me it was James, I laughed. It turns out he makes the videos I watched, as I had already been a long-time subscriber to his channel. And one of his videos was actually the first one I had watched on police auditing. We've since become good friends. So anyway, having been sick for nearly a decade, I had to watch as things around me were becoming increasingly tyrannical. And I vowed if I ever got better, I wanted to try and effect real change. And one way I feel I can do that is to contribute here on this channel and help bring awareness to so many of your stories of rights being violated, of atrocities being committed by people in these positions of perceived power. A lot of the stories I'll cover will have to do with police behaving badly, but some will have to do with corruption at the elected level. Corruption exists all around us, and yet it doesn't seem to gain any traction in the news media. It doesn't matter which brand of corporate media a person chooses to indoctrinate themselves with, none of it covers corruption in a way that will affect real change. They merely attempt to manipulate us into believing it isn't happening. So in a nutshell, I care about liberty. I care about my liberty, and I care about your liberty. Today, far too many of those liberties are being stepped on by people in positions of perceived power. I look forward to bringing awareness to those stories to help victims get the justice they deserve, and hopefully, I can make you laugh a little bit along the way. As a friend of mine said recently, why can't we have a little fun while we're exposing tyrants? Oh, and before I go, let me leave you with one of my favorite moments on this channel, when the police chief in Mountain Air called 911 because James showed up to his meeting.
Who's this?
This is the dispatch center. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. This is Chief Reyes.
Copy that.
101.
Okay.
All right, you just got a call regarding a disturbance. Yeah, it's the Freeman people causing problem there, and
Gotta beware. It's the Freeman people.